The Bay continued on ITV1 this week with episode 2, and we're hooked. We have so many questions we want answering in the upcoming third episode, after episode 2 ended on disturbing scenes. Viewers saw Adnan Rahman furiously trashing the memorial set up for his dead brother. But why? The Bay episode 2, Who Killed Cipher Mon? We still don't know the answer to the most obvious question, who killed Cipher Mon? The promising young boxer was found dead in the sea before the opening credits of episode 1 of ITV's The Bay. And we now know it wasn't an accident. Cipher died as a result of a sustained beating. He had head injuries, a blunt force trauma, before his body was dumped in the sea. The police were investigating a bunch of thugs who had a fight with Cipher on the night he died. But they have since proved they have alibis. Our suspects after episode 2 include Vincent, Regan's Ray, and we still think angry brother Adnan is involved. Our guess from episode 1 still stand too, that was boxer Warren Price. He looks dodgy, admit it. What is Adnan hiding and why the hell did he trash Cipher's memorial? We already know that Adnan and his mum Miriam don't get along. Although we don't as yet know why. Adnan is clearly hiding something. Not least a burning hatred for his dead brother, if the ending of episode 2 is anything to go by. Adnan was seen destroying a memorial to Cipher. That's more than grief. That's pure rage. We also know that Adnan lied about his alibi for the night his brother was murdered. He says he was working, but there are conveniently no witnesses. Which leads us nicely to our next burning question. Was Cipher a nasty piece of work? Now we hate to speak ill of the dead, but we're going to anyway. There have been a few clues that the murdered Cipher might not have been the perfect son Miriam thinks he was. Which, of course, may well explain why Adnan is so angry all the time. Adnan has insinuated that his dead brother wasn't such an angel. Jordan Rooney and his thug pals said Cipher got what he deserved. Police are also considering the possibility that Cipher might have been using or dealing drugs. We also know that Cipher argued with his girlfriend on the night he died, maybe or maybe not because he was flirting with another girl. No one deserves to be beaten up and dumped in the sea, obviously, but could Cipher have provoked the attack? Why don't Muslims allow postmortems? In episode 2 of The Bay, the Rahman family are very upset by the police's decision to carry out a postmortem. The family are Muslims, and expressed their desire for Cipher's body to be left intact. Muslims are always buried, never cremated. It is a religious requirement that the body be ritually washed and draped before burial, which should be as soon as possible after death. They believe the human body is sacred and thus dislike post-mortem examinations. What is a Cat A murder? A Category A crime is a murder or other major investigation which is of grave public concern. It also means that members of the public are still at risk. In the case of Cipher Mon, we know he died as a result of a sustained beating. Cipher's death was caused by head injuries after a blunt force trauma. And the killer is still very much on the loose. The Bay episode 2, is Chris Fisher a wrong-un? Is it just us, or is anyone else hearing alarm bells whenever D.S. Jen Townsend's boyfriend Chris Fisher enters a scene? Isn't he just a bit creepy and controlling? The relationship between Jen and Chris already seems to be troubled, even though they've only just moved in with each other. Fingers and toes crossed we're wrong, though. Perhaps the show is making us too suspicious. The Bay episode 2, How and Why is the boxing club involved? Cipher was a promising young boxer who had everything to live for. But he clearly had his enemies. In episode 2, Police officers finally found Sife's missing phone outside the boxing club. They also found blood spatter on the ground and wall outside the club. We now know that Sife went to the club after drinking at the bar on the night of his death. Was he meeting someone? And, if he was killed at the boxing club, how did his body end up in the sea? What's going on with Vincent Regan's character Ray? Episode 2 and still barely a glimpse of Vincent Regan's character Ray. This smells fishy to us, and not just because it's set in a seaside town. Actor Vincent is one of the most recognizable actors in the ITV series. So we don't think he's there to help Miriam self-medicate by pouring her drinks. We suspect Ray is a lot more involved in Sife's death than we've so far been led to believe.